Hello, my dear children. The agenda of today's class is Bohr's atomic model. Children, in the last class we studied Rutherford's atomic model, and we have seen there that an atom explained by Rutherford's atomic model is unstable, and this stability was provided to atom by Niels Bohr in his very first postulate. So what is this postulate number 1? Let us proceed ahead to know it. Well, this postulate number 1 of Niels Bohr is known by the key word law of stationary state. Well, electron revolve around nucleus. This is the statement of the law. Electron revolve around the nucleus in certain privileged orbits. Called stationary orbits or fixed orbits. So what do we call these orbits where electron revolve? Electron revolve around the nucleus in certain privileged orbits, special orbits, VVIP's orbits. So what is special about these orbits? What is privileged about this orbit is the fact that as long as electron remains in one of these orbits, it does not radiate any energy. Its energy would remain constant. Well, in the Rutherford model, when as electron revolve around nucleus, its motion is accelerated, and every accelerated charged particle emits out its energy in the form of electromagnetic waves. And if this very famous law is applied to an atom, well, atom becomes unstable. But what Niels Bohr said? Niels Bohr said, yes, that law is true. But in this particular situation, in an atom, this law does not hold true. Why? He devised the concept of special orbits, privileged orbits. And we stated that electron revolve around the nucleus in certain privileged orbits, special orbits, stationary orbits, fixed orbits. So what is special about these orbits is the fact that as long as electron remains in one of these orbits, it would not radiate. That means it would not follow the very famous law of classical electrodynamics, by virtue of which the Rutherford atom became unstable. So this is the exception. Atom is an exception where this very famous law of electrodynamics does not hold true. As per postulate number 1, we have just seen the energy of electron remains constant. Like this is nucleus, this is n is equal to 1, K shell. This is stationary state number 1. This is stationary state number 2, L shell. This is stationary state number 3, M shell. And this is stationary state number 4, N shell. As long as electron remains in this orbit, its energy remains E1, and that remains constant. As long as electron revolves in this particular orbit, that is L shell, its energy is E2, and that remains constant. All these E1, E2 are of course different, but as long as electron remains in this orbit number 2, its energy E2 remains fixed. Likewise, in orbit number 3, in stationary state number 3, which is M shell, energy is E3. It is different from E2, but it remains constant. So in every state we have a different value of energy associated with the electron, and that energy remains constant as long as electron remains in that particular orbit. So this is law of stationary state, and this is very important law. This law provides stability to unstable atom of Rutherford. Well, second law of postulate number 2 is related with dynamics of electron. So as electron revolve around nucleus in circular orbit, necessary centripetal force for circular motion is provided by electrostatic force of attraction between electron and nucleus. The force of attraction between electron and nucleus provides necessary centripetal force for electron to move on circular path. Well, this is nucleus, this is electron moving around nucleus in circular orbit. The distance of the electron is r. Well, the charge over nucleus is what? Charge over nucleus is plus Ze. Z is atomic number. And charge over electron is minus E. They are at a distance r from each other, and electron is moving with the orbital speed v. Centripetal force is equal to force of attraction between electron and nucleus. So what is centripetal force? Centripetal force is mv square by r. M is the mass of electron and it is moving with the orbital speed v on the circular path of the ADSR. Therefore, its centripetal force is what? Centripetal force acting over it is mv square by r, and that is equal to force of attraction between electron and nucleus. And what is that force of attraction? 1 upon 4 by epsilon naught. Q1 Q2 by r square. Q1 is charge over nucleus, Q2 is the charge over electron, and r of course is the distance between them. We don't put here negative sign because this is the magnitude of the force. This is the magnitude of force between electron and nucleus, and that force is responsible for centripetal force as the real electrons revolves around nucleus in circular orbit. Third postulate states the quantum condition of Bohr's atomic model. So what is this quantum condition? Well, angular momentum of electron is always integral multiple of h upon 2 pi. This is what is quantum condition. The angular momentum of electron is what? Quantized. When anything is quantized, it is always integral multiple of its smallest quantity. You have studied quantization of charge. Quantization of charge means what? Every value of charge is integral multiple of E. E is the elementary charge, smallest value of charge. Same way, here angular momentum is quantized. That means angular momentum is integral multiple of electron is integral multiple of its smallest value. Smallest value of angular momentum is h upon 2 pi. So angular momentum of electron in any orbit would either be 1 times h upon 2 pi, or it would be 2 times h upon 2 pi, or it would be 3 times h upon 2 pi. Angular momentum is integral multiple of h upon 2 pi, where h is Planck constant. This n is an integer, and this n of course is principal quantum number, as you know in chemistry. Postulate number 4. This postulate number 4 is known by the keyword law of transition. Well, we have studied in postulate number 1 that as long as electron is in a stationary state, it would not emit out its energy. Well, as it moves from one stationary state to another, in that case, it is going to absorb as well as emit out energy, and that is what is law of transition. So as electron moves from one stationary state to another, in that case only it either absorbs or emits energy, and that energy which it absorbs or emits is always equal to the difference of the energies of initial and final stationary state. So when electron moves from one stationary state to another, in that case only it can absorb or emit out energy, and the energy it absorbs or emit is equal to difference of the energies of initial and final energy states. As electron moves from lower energy states to high energy states, it absorbs energy, and when it moves from high energy states to lower energy states, it emits energy, and the energy it absorbs or emits is the difference of the energies of initial and final level, like it is moving from state number 1 to state number 3. Well, in that case, the energy it is going to absorb is what? Difference of the energies of first and third level. And as it moves from 3 to 1, the same energy which it absorbs, it emits out. So this is law of transition. Children, at times this law of transition is not taken as a separate law. It may be taken as the consequence of law number 1. Law number 1 says that electron is not going to emit energy as long as it is in one of the stationary state. That simply means as it moves from one stationary state to another state, it will absorb or emit, and that is what is law of transition. So at times it is not taken as a separate law. It is taken as the consequence of law number 1. Well, let us find out the expression for radius and velocity of electron in nth stationary state. So what is this radius and velocity of electron in nth stationary state? Well children, we know as per postulate number 2, centripetal force required for circular motion is provided by force of attraction between electron and nucleus, and that force of attraction is ZE into E upon 4 pi epsilon naught r square. This is equation number 1. As per postulate number 3, angular momentum is integral multiple of h upon 2 pi. So this is equation number 2. So let us solve equation number 1 and 2 for V and R. Well, what is the value of V from this equation? V is going to be nh upon 2 pi mr. And if we substitute this value of V in equation number 1, equation number 1, what do we get? We get mv square by r. This is V. This is V square. And that is equal to ZE square upon 4 pi epsilon naught r square. If we open up the bracket, what do we get? This r cancels out with this r square. This 4 pi cancels out with this 4 pi. And this m, one of the m cancels out here. So what do we get? What do we get r as? This r comes out to be epsilon naught n square h square upon pi m e square z. This is the expression for radius. Epsilon Rn is equal to epsilon naught n square h square upon pi m e square z. And what is important about this relation is the fact that radius is directly proportional to n square and inversely proportional to z. Rest all are constants. Well, if we substitute n is equal to 1 and z is equal to 1, what does this mean? This simply means we are talking about hydrogen atom, and n is equal to 1 means first orbit, first stationary state. So if we substitute z is equal to 1, n is equal to 1, we get r naught, the radius of the first orbit of hydrogen atom, which is also called as Bohr radius, is going to be what? Epsilon naught s square upon pi m e square. And if we substitute the values of all these terms, we get the radius as 0.53 into 10 to the power minus 10 meter, which is 0.53 angstrom. So this is also called as Bohr's radius. So what is Bohr's radius? Bohr's radius is the radius of first orbit in hydrogen atom, and its value is 0.53 angstrom. And if we write this value here in the formula, what do we get the radius as? 0.53 n square upon z angstrom, or it is r naught n square upon z. Remember, this r naught is Bohr's radius. Well, if we substitute the value of this r here in velocity, we get the value of velocity. If we substitute r in velocity here, well, we get nh upon 2 pi m r. R is what? Epsilon naught n square s square upon pi m e square. It moves up. And if we solve it, what do we get? This pi cancels out, this m cancels out, one of the power of nh cancels out. So what are we left with? E square z in the numerator, and in the denominator we have 2 epsilon naught nh. So this is expression for velocity. E square z upon 2 epsilon naught nh. And what is important about this relation is the fact that velocity is directly proportional to z and is inversely proportional to n. Rest all are constant. Again if we substitute here, n is equal to 1, z is equal to 1. That means we are talking about hydrogen atom in first stationary state, in K shell. So in the first stationary state in hydrogen atom, the velocity of electron is going to be what? Z1, N1. We get E square upon 2 epsilon naught H. E square upon 2 epsilon naught H. If we substitute the value of E epsilon naught H, we solve it. What do we get? We get it as 2.2 into 10 to the power 6 meter per second. So this is velocity of electron in first orbit, first stationary state. Well, There is a very famous constant here at this stage. We must know this constant. What is this constant? This constant is called as fine structure constant. So this fine structure constant is a unitless, dimensionless constant, and it is defined as the ratio of velocity of electron in first stationary state in hydrogen atom to velocity of light. The ratio of velocity of electron in first stationary state in hydrogen atom to velocity of light, the ratio is called as fine structure constant. V naught is what? 2.2 10 to the power 6 we have just found out. And what is C? C is well known to us, 3 into 10 to the power 8. If we solve this, what do we get? We get 1 upon 137. That means this V is going to be C upon 137. The velocity of electron in first stationary state in hydrogen atom is 1 upon 137 times speed of light. And if we substitute this value here in the formula of velocity, what do we get? Velocity in nth orbit is V naught Z upon N. Or for V naught we can write down C upon 137 Z upon N. So this is also expression for velocity in nth orbit. So children, with this we come to the end of today's class. In the next class we will study energy of electron. Thereafter we will study energy level diagram of electrons. So very important discussion is due. So for the time being, this is all for the day. Thank you very much.